So the Seahawks have cut 3 players today.
Saved a bunch of cash.
Will Dissly is out. I know that bothers you greatly. Jamal Adams is out.
I don't think this bothers anyone.
No.
I mean, this will go down.
Overrated.
This will go down as one of the worst trades in. It's probably the worst trade in Seahawks history. It's one of the worst trades in the NFL in the last 20 years.
What would they give up for him?
I think they gave up 2 1s and then they swapped a 2 and a 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
No, he did have the 1 year where he had like 9.5 sacks, and I think he was second team All Pro. He was terrible in coverage, but at least he was good against the run, and then blitzed, and then he was terrible and he was hurt.
I was looking at his starts. He played 34 games in 4 seasons.
Yes, it's not good.
It's not good. It's an average of 8.5 a year, and then he made just over the last 34 games, he only made 10 starts.
Yeah, and he was
not good enough.
Nope, and he was.
And when he was out there, he was
terrible.
kind of a numbnhet, and he was. I don't know. He's a wild card, and
just wasn't good.
And then towards the end, he stepped in it on social media. Yeah. He was like, he did you see that whole thing where he was like criticizing a reporter's wife for how she looked?
No.
And yeah, it was a whole deal.
Yeah, he's a goober.
Yeah, it's not.
And then Quandre Diggs is also out.
And Diggs, by the way, who was a nice player, I think he made 3 straight Pro Bowls. He's on the wrong side of 30, and he's expensive. And he didn't have a great year last year. So there's nothing wrong with Diggs. And he'll sign somewhere and he'll be fine, but he carried a big cap hit. There were savings there. And, this is just it's like with Eric Kendricks being released today by the Chargers. And, I mean, there were so many guys. Like, everyone has to get under the cap and get their books squared away and then be able to jump into free agency. So, and the Dissly one and the Diggs aren't that those guys aren't good players still. Adams was get the hell out of town. The others were it was a cap casualties.
Yeah, they needed to save a bunch of money under the cap, and they save $34 million-ish.
Yeah, so I think they go into free agency now with roughly $50 million to spend.
Yeah, they're saying Diggs frees up $11 million. Dissly's release frees up $6.97 million.
Yeah.
And Adams was almost $29 million, I think.
Well, some of it was cash.
Oh, okay.
So this says Adams' release wipes the $16.5 million off the Seahawks books, as well as the $17.5 million non-guaranteed he was scheduled to make in 2025.
Yeah, so they take the bigger hit this year because the salary cap ended up being bumped up by about $12 million that wasn't expected. So the Seahawks will eat the brunt of it this year, and they'll be fine.
So they'll save $7 million against the 2024 cap by releasing Adams while taking on $20 million in dead money.
Yeah. So
with him,
this is
it's not a good trade, but
no, it will go down as one of the.
No, it wasn't good.
One of the worst.
But
ones.
At the time, it was like, all right, I could see what they were thinking.
Yeah, I do remember at the time like that safeties. I'm not saying the safeties aren't important. For a safety that's not great in coverage, even at the time there were a lot of people like, wow, that is.
Yeah, has he always been that overrated?
No, he got worse, but he was never a great coverage safety. But it certainly he fell off the cliff.
So he
was a good young player that did not age well.
So they gave up 2 firsts, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
and then they paid him 4 years, $70 million. He got a big extension.
And I kind of remember the local reaction at the time being, well, you got a good run stopper and you got a guy who can blitz, but boy, that was a lot to give up for a guy whose game isn't particularly well-rounded.
Yes.
His first season with the Seahawks, he made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he was like a second
team
All-Pro.
And he had 9.5 sacks. Yep. He did not have 1 sack after that.
No.
Not one.
No, it fell apart. Again, injuries, and again, football players don't age like fine wine. They usually age like bread. And when you get a guy that's a bit of a malcontent and he's kind of a putz and he gets paid, I'm not saying that the injuries weren't the main reason why he fell off, but sometimes the motivation to come back from those things just isn't quite there.
Now, did I hear a promo moments ago on The Fan, 1080 The Fan, my favorite sports station in Portland? Well, really,
I'm sure you did.
Did I hear a promo that Ian Furness was on with Sprague, and he said that Geno Smith is better than Brock Purdy?
I do believe that was the promo that you heard.
Yes, I think so.
Yes. Wait, is he serious about that?
I believe he is. Yes. I think he likes him some.
Is that close? Or
likes him some Geno Smith.
Well, I'm sure he does. He's a Seahawks guy. But am I crazy that's?
I think it's kind of tough because it's like comparing apples and oranges. Like Purdy has all these weapons, and Geno might have more physical tools, bigger arms, stuff like that. But
Geno's got some pretty good weapons too. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
Seattle's offense isn't pathetic.
No, not by any
I can
stretch.
pull up the numbers now.
Look, I get that Geno is maybe a little better than some would give him credit for.
Yeah.
And his resurrection is nothing short of outstanding.
Yes.
That being said, he is not Brock Purdy, man.
I would not think so. So this is Geno this last year. Geno completed 64% of his passes for 3,600 yards, 20 tutties, 9 picks, for a robust quarterback rating of 92.
Well, pretty simple question. If you were Kyle Shanahan, would you dump
Brock
Purdy
Purdy.
for Smith?
No.
No, of course
God,
not.
no.
No.
So there's your answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Brock, by the way, completed almost 70% of his passes for 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns for a quarterback rating of 113. Now the question becomes, how much of that is San Francisco? How much of that is Seattle? But I mean, I'm sorry. No one, and I mean no one in the NFL would choose for the long term or even the short term. They would choose Geno Smith over Brock Purdy. It's not happening. By the way, Geno Smith.
I didn't hear the segment.
Geno Smith will not be the quarterback in Seattle within
exactly
2 years. 3 years.
You can tell they're moving off of him.
Yeah.
I mean, McDonald doesn't want him.
I think you're fine with him, but you're always looking for something better. I mean,
Well, that's what I mean.
He's a bridge
Like,
quarterback.
He doesn't want him.
No, and it feels like that Brock hopefully has finally shed the label of just kind of.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like I get that Smith's maybe a little undervalued, but Brock Purdy is massively undervalued.
Yes, he is.
I don't get the talk about him, man. He's really good.
You know me, I have long I've been a defender of him, and I don't know what he has to do to shake that in some people's eyes, but this is what we do. If you're not Aaron Rodgers, or if you're not Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, then we want to throw the whole system quarterback at you and that you're replaceable. And it's just, God, we make it like playing quarterback on a good team is the easiest thing in the world. And it's just such a silly argument.
Someone said that's like saying the Oregon Ducks are a better football team than the Washington Huskies the last 2 years.
Well, I know Oregon fan.
There are some people who say that.
Try to say that.
I don't know. I think Geno's like he's a bit in the Baker Mayfield camp for me in that I think that, well, I'm just mean that they're quarterbacks that I think you can do some things with and they can win you some games.
Yeah.
But boy, I tell you, you get in a big game on a big drive, I have zero faith in them. And I mean zero.
Sure.
And Baker will throw the game losing pick. He did in the playoffs. And Geno will too. Every time.
Yeah. I can't.
Brock won't.
They're both quarterbacks. Those two guys, Baker and Geno, are good enough to get you to the playoffs, but not
That's
probably
right.
good enough to win you Super Bowl.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah. I find Geno. See, I like Baker more than most people. I think Baker's better.
I do think he's better too, but I again,
Same category.
you get Baker 80 yards in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
it ain't happening, dude. It's just not happening.
I think that both of them are, if we're doing tiers, right? I always say that we put too many guys into tier 1. There's like 5. There's like 4 to 5 in tier 1. And then tier 2 to me is like, let's go 5 or 6 to like 10. And then I think that third tier is like 11 to 20. And then you get into the after that, the back half. And to me, the Geno Smiths of the world, they're either at the front end of the fourth tier or at the back end of the third tier. And like I said, I don't think there's much difference. I'll go to my grave saying, to me, there's not a ton of difference between the 13th best quarterback in the league and the 18th best quarterback in the league. Then it comes down to who the personnel is around you, and do you have a good quarterback coach, and do you have an O-line and a run game and all that stuff. You know, the guys almost become interchangeable at that point. But, I mean, for God's sakes, Geno's had 2 years where he looks like he can even play in this league. So, you know, we need to stop with this, you know,
He's a honk. Come on,
there's
Furness.
a little bit of that I don't just.
But thanks for the content.
Yeah.
I like that promo.
Yeah.
It's good. Bought us 5 minutes.
Someone said Mahomes is tier 1 and then it's 2 after that. I wouldn't go quite that far.
Who would
but,
you put in tier 1 with Mahomes?
when healthy, and this is, oh, by the way, I don't know if you've seen any of the Joe Burrow stuff, but you know his wrist that he hurt. Why there's a it's like Dr. Is it Jesse Moore? There's a guy I follow on Twitter. He's a he's an orthopedic surgeon. He's a really smart guy. He does a bunch of sports injury stuff, and he's not like a doom, you know, sky is falling type of stuff, but I think he provides a lot of very interesting perspective on injuries. And he was talking, and he had gotten a chat with a couple other surgeons. I guess this ligament that Burrow hurt in his wrist, he's saying that's way more important than anyone's letting on.
Uh-oh.
And that is something that you just don't see a lot of in professional athletes. And it's something that can be a long-term problem, can cause arthritis. And he said, keep an eye on that with Burrow, that this is a long-term thing. This is not a weird, just little, a minor surgery and a bone, gets fixed and you're fine. So to me, when healthy, Burrow is the second best quarterback in the league. But that's starting to get a big fat question mark. Is Burrow ever healthy?
Well, he's the only guy that's taken out Mahomes.
Yes.
When it counts.
So if you're doing quarterback tiers and we're going to say tier 1 guys, I would say that
Except for Brady,
it's Mahomes, it's Burrow. I think Josh Allen falls into that category.
Lamar.
Yeah, the postseason stuff, but Lamar has to. He's a 2-time MVP. So I think Lamar falls into that tier 1. I don't know if I'm not going to put Herbert in there. I think he's knocking on the door, but I think you may have a 4 that may be it. That may be it for me, is those 4.
Jake Browning.
Not quite.
Yeah, after that you would get Stafford.
Yeah.
Purdy.
And those aren't tier 1 guys to me.
Prescott, Cousins, Stroud.
No. Which is why I said, to me, the tier I always
Hurts.
put
Rodgers.
I always
Stroud?
put my tier 1 way smaller, and I put my tier 2 way bigger. Because if you take those quarterbacks, right? If you just went off of the quarterback rating, right? Like Brock, Dak, Herbert, Stafford, Cousins, Jordan Love, Tua, Golf, Hurts. That's like those are all like in that top 12. I don't think there's a ton of difference between a lot of those guys.
Golf.
Like I just don't like you did be like, Dak sucks and Cousins great. They're kind of the same guy.
Yes, but I think that this is maybe the difference in what we're saying is I agree with you in generalities, but when push comes to shove and you have to choose one of these guys, you're comparing these guys, there's just some guys that you think can get it done in the clutch more so than others.
Yeah.
And that one right there is an easy one. Dak Prescott over Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
I have no faith in Kirk Cousins in a big game, in a big moment. None.
I guess
same is true of Geno. Same is true of Baker. Dak, I've got faith a little bit.
To me, I just think if you bounced those guys and you shuffled those quarterbacks around to the teams, I don't think you see much difference in that team's production.
No, I get it, but what really matters is when
stuff.
push comes to shove in the playoffs, and it's the question of who would you rather have. And it's intangible stuff. It's not. I can't prove that Dak would be better in clutch than Kirk Cousins. I just have watched football enough to know that I don't have any faith in Kirk Cousins.
Based on that, and it's a valid point. You know how I would move to my top of the tier 2 is Matthew Stafford.
He's solid.
If I had to play in going into the playoffs, and you don't give me my tier 1 guys,
He probably won't play you out of the game.
he won't play. And I say, okay, I
He
got
can also make the play to
exactly.
win.
You give me a good team. I got a good team, right? I have a Super Bowl, the 49ers, right? And you say I get any one of my tier 2 quarterbacks, and I get him for just one postseason. I don't have to have him stay healthy the entire year. I think I'm taking Matthew Stafford. Again, to your point of Stafford has proven that dude in the clutch will ball out.
I might take Rodgers.
Well,
if he's not in tier 1, I might go Rodgers.
Well, but again, that's different because he's 1,000 years old and he's coming off an Achilles tear. If that wasn't the case, then I would have put Rodgers in tier 1. But
Herbert, Rodgers, Stafford.
I forgot.
Stroud.
I didn't even mention Rodgers because the tear. And CJ Stroud, he has another year like he did last year. He jumps to the top of tier 1 and is jumps to the top of tier 2 and is knocking on the door for. Yeah. I mean, his rookie year was insane.
All right. Well, Furness, Geno Smith, not better than Brock Purdy. Okay, get over yourself up there.
No, we won't.
Seattle honks.
Seattle. I do think they love their
Seattle.
Yeah, they love their.
Is he turning into Colin Cowherd? Is he hot take guy up there now?
What?
I hope so.
Everybody with hot takes.
Gotta have hot local takes, man.
Gotta go viral.
Damn right.